Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Government Contract Review Committee. I do think we have a quorum, so Ms. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Senator Boswell.
Here.
Senator Douglas.
Present.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Here.
Representative McCool.
Here.
Representative Pollock.
Here.
Senator Meredith.
Present.
Chairman Hart.
Here. Our mics aren't working over here. None of theirs are.
Good matter. I mean, everybody can hear me. Our mics aren't on live over here, but I promise you, everybody can hear me talk.
Yeah. What?
Good planning.
Does it matter?
Yep. No, I can hear you.
All right.
Okay.
First item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes of the May 14th meeting of the committee. Is there a motion that may be considered as being approved?
Motion.
Motion by Senator Douglas, second by Representative Chester Burton. All in favor vote aye, all opposed vote nay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Total number of items on the agenda today are 1,166 in the amount of $2,520,570,904.02. All vendors are registered with the Secretary of State's office. First, we will take up the deferred list, which are the Transportation Office of the Secretary, and our numbers 151 and 158 on the May PSC routine green list. If representatives are here, please come forward, identify yourself for the record. Are they virtual?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Hancock, Deputy Secretary for the Transportation Cabinet. I am virtual.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. If you would, please raise your right hand.
Sir.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. And I believe Co-Chair Meredith has some questions.
I do, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Hancock, for being here. We're looking at 151 and 158. In my question, it looks like there's some overlapping responsibilities between these two contracts. So I'm curious as to what their relationship is. So one's kind of oversight, but the other one's performing kind of an audit function. And looks like there could be some potential for some conflict of opinions. But again, just trying to understand how these two companies work with each other and what kind of relationship they have.
Yes, sir. Senator Meredith, the situation that we have here is, of course, the Louisville Bridges tolling operation is a very complex operation top to bottom. And what we have is LMBC, the contract, I think, is for $400,000 for the biennium. LMBC is a revenue control manager, and their responsibility is to ensure that cash management across the program is being handled appropriately and that the money is being derived and assigned as appropriate. They are a revenue control manager, so very distinct responsibilities. The other contract deals with HNTB, and HNTB is our toll services advisor. And as our toll services advisor, they help us work alongside the states to oversee and work with our tolling providers and the implementers and all of those folks. So there are different roles in this big organization of Louisville Bridges tolling.
Well, what caught my attention is that HNTB Corporation is providing procurement contract oversight. So do they have oversight for this LBMC contract as to whether they're doing the job appropriately or not?
No, sir. They the Kentucky-Indiana Joint Board, that's a group made up of top-level executives from the KYTC and Indiana's Department of Transportation, plus the Indiana Finance Authority and our Department of Finance or Finance Cabinet. That joint board actually has oversight over all of these. Now, HNTB does not control in any way or influence the selection of LMBC as our revenue control manager. That is something that the Kentucky-Indiana Joint Board does. And in fact, the state of Kentucky actually procures the LMBC, this revenue control manager, while Indiana, through the Indiana Finance Authority, procures the HNTB contract as our toll services advisor. So two distinctly separate things there, no opportunity for overlap.
Well, it says in the contract description for LBMC, they specifically mentioned that the revenue control manager, which is this company, is not responsible for performance of bank reconciliation, collection of deposits.
Right.
Who has that responsibility?
Yes, sir. We have a toll services provider. It's a TSP in our parlance. That is another firm. It's referred to as Electronic Toll Collections Incorporated. It's ETC is their name, and they do all of the back office work. Again, this is a very complex project, so we have the back office that works with its set of responsibilities. We have our HNTB is our toll services advisor, who's helping us make sure that all of those back office collections activities and all of the on the ground tolling systems, overhead toll plate readers and all of that stuff are working well. And then we have the revenue control manager, who simply looks at things from a very high level and makes sure that the money that's being collected is being deposited appropriately and used appropriately.
So is it fair to say they have oversight of the back office system?
Well, they have a I guess a high level oversight to make sure that it's working properly, but it is not their contract to perform those back office system requirements.
Well, I guess I'm trying to determine the hierarchy here, and I'm struggling with it just a little bit. It seems like we get a lot of chiefs involved in this, but I'm not sure who's really watching the hen house here.
Yes, sir. And the big control is exerted by the Kentucky-Indiana Joint Board. That group of state folks make sure that these independent consultants are doing their respective jobs appropriately. And it's our job to make sure that that as each of these is doing what it does, that it's all coming together appropriately, that there's no overlap or any kind of relationship that should not be occurring. As I said, it's just a very complex project with a lot of moving parts. And in order to oversee and make sure everything is working appropriately, the joint board is exercising that oversight to ensure that all these pieces are working together well.
Well, that's my concern, is that there's coordination among all this, and folks are actually getting some oversight. And I happened to read an article just last week about a gentleman who had not been to work for 20 years, but still received a paycheck, and nobody knew that he wasn't showing up for work. So I know that's an extreme situation, but again, when you got a complex situation like you described here, I can see where it could be easy to let some things fall through the parts. But I'll defer to the Transportation Cabinet for your judgment on this. So with that, Mr. Chair, I have no other questions.
All right. Next order of business is consideration.
Motion to approve.
Motion motion was made by Co-Chair Meredith. To have a second? Second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith. Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Next order of business is consideration of the agenda, including the deferred list, personal service contract list, personal service contract amendment list, memorandum of agreement list, memorandum of agreement amendment list, and the Kentucky Entertainment Incentive Program agreement list, and the corrections list, except for those items selected for further review. Do we have a motion to consider the contracts reviewed without objection?
So moved.
Motion made by Senator Douglas.
Second.
Second by Co-Chair Meredith. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. And in order to accommodate an agency's request, the first items we will consider on the pull list are the Economic Development Office of the Secretary, which are items number 109, 118, and 119 on the routine PSC green list. If the representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. I'm Katie Smith. I'm Deputy Secretary at the Cabinet, and thank you for accommodating our request this morning.
You're very welcome.
There we go. Monique Kirkendall Quarterman, Executive Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the Cabinet for Economic Development.
Matt Wingate, General Counsel for the Cabinet.
All right, thank you all so much. If you all would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you so much. And I believe Senator Meredith has some questions, or Co-Chair Meredith. Which would you like to be called?
I'm here. I'm proud. I'm pumped. Okay. Thank you all for being here. You know, I've always enjoyed this concept of having these regional offices, but I'm just curious as why there's such a disparity in the amount of funding allocated for each office. You look at Bowling Green, $230,000, but you look at the one in Lexington, $735,000. And Louisville's even higher than that. So Bowling Green is the lowest paid. The next is Paducah. And I'm a little bit sensitive what happens west of I-65. Sometimes it's like people don't know that's part of our state. So I'm just curious, why is there such a disparity in the funding for these offices?
I understand. Thank you. So this go around with the RFP, we do this RFP every 4 years. And we followed kind of what the rules have been for some of our other programs like KPDI. We use the county population. And so when we did the RFP, and whatever counties they're covering, we took those percentages of the population, added those percentages up, and applied it to our total that we have allocated for the hub offices, which is $3,015,000. So each of them selected their counties, and we scored the RFP. Those that scored the highest got the counties they selected, and then that's how the calculation just worked, is based on the percentage of population.
Well, it's an interesting metric, but I don't know whether I agree with it, because the intent of these offices is economic development, means you're going to grow your population. So if you get less fund allocated to it, the probability of growing your population decreases. Is that?
No, we also all of the offices work together as well. So it's not just for them to work in those regions, that they work across the entire state to help each other and coordinate. So if somebody in Eastern Kentucky has more experience with something, and there's an entrepreneur in Western Kentucky, we will link them up, hook them up, so that they can have somebody with more experience to be able to assist. So it's truly, all of them are our partners and collaborators in trying to grow entrepreneurship and economic development across the state. Do you want to add anything to it?
We also have support. Thank you for your question. We also have support through the Kentucky Science and Technology Corporation with a director for the Hubs program. The Hubs are meeting together on a regular basis, gathering with that director at least once a month. And the purpose is to share those successes and also ways to work together. We also have a regular call all together as well.
Okay, for these particular regional offices, how do you measure success?
Thank you so much for that question. For measuring success, we have a set of metrics that we have shared across all of the hubs and are tracked on a regular monthly basis. So for each hubs, they are tracking number of startups served, number of startup connections, number of startups advanced, number of new businesses created and attracted, new jobs created, events hosted, event attendees, startups funded, and amount invested in startups. And each hub reports monthly amounts, but then also end of the year amounts and goals.
Who's the best?
It's hard to answer that question, but thank you. Really, we don't compare best to worst or even try to rank them. Each region tends to have a different mix of businesses. So we try to encourage the hubs to meet those businesses where they are. Of course, there is a focus on scalable business across entrepreneurship, but we make sure to accommodate those small businesses and community that need that support as well. So they may differ in the amount of investment, but we always have other resources that we make available to them through the hub as well.
Those are great measures, great metrics. I like those, but how do you set the bar? I mean, you got to have a goal for each region, I would assume, given the geographic disparities and differences. So how do you set the goal as to each of these metrics is what they should be?
Thank you for that question. We actually set goals every year prior to the fiscal year with our hubs director in consultation with Kentucky Innovation and also the hubs themselves. So they have an active voice in sort of setting what is feasible for their region, and they are also responsible for justifying why they believe they can reach those goals.
And you think, in your opinion, that each regional office is giving us a good return on our investment?
Thank you for that question. I do believe so. Just the amount of ecosystem growth across the Commonwealth, especially in rural areas, seeing investment move even beyond the Golden Triangle. We have seen some fantastic stories coming out of each and every community that is very encouraging and also looked at across the nation.
Can you calculate an ROI for each office?
Thank you for that question. We have not calculated an ROI for each office. We do calculate the total amount of investment that goes into small business for each office. But of course, it's a little bit more difficult because the businesses that they work with are very diverse, and we encourage it.
And I appreciate that, but sometimes we can lull ourselves as false sense of security that we're doing a good job and maybe we're not doing a good job. It depends what your measurement is and what your metric is, and that's what I'm trying to get to: is who's doing the best job, and are they being aggressive as they could be, and I just have more of a comfort level if I knew what I guess the bottom line is. Is this information presented in a report to our legislature? Does it go to the Committee for Economic Development?
We are required to do annual reports, and they require us to post it on our website. And so we notify LRC when they're posted on our website. We have an annual report section for all of our different programs out there on our website. We used to physically manually send over a binder of reports, and then they changed the legislation to require us to put the reports on the website.
Has there been a recent report to the Interim Committee for Economic Development?
The last report was as of the fiscal year ending last year, June 30th, 2023, and we'll be doing the one for June 30th, 2024. It's due November 1st of this year.
Okay. Can you send me a link to that
Yes, ma'am.
report?
Or
I
yes, sir.
appreciate that. All right. Other than I think you still need more investment in Western Kentucky, that's all I have, Mr.
All right, I think Senator Douglas has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Miller, I always tell people, Ms. Smith, I'm sorry, my apologies. I'm a pretty simple guy. I always tell people I'm a pretty simple guy. There is a large disparity in what it is costing to run the individual offices in the individual regions. I really do understand if the cost of doing business is different in those three regions. But to the extent that there is this much of a difference in the cost of running those regional offices, I'm not sure if that makes up for the difference in the cost of doing business in those different regions, since all of these offices are charged with performing the same tasks. And already, and I really do appreciate the fact that we are sharing information among the offices. We are sharing at least the experience of the workforce across those offices. And that even more so mitigates or makes me wonder, why is there such a discrepancy? I still have that concern, and I do appreciate the answers that were being given, but to me, it doesn't really fill in the gap between how much it costs to run one regional office and the other regional office, since we are sharing information, we're sharing experience within those offices. And again, I get the differences in doing business, because sometimes it does cost more to do business in one region of the Commonwealth than it does in the other. But I just want you guys to know I am concerned about the differences in how much it is costing to run these offices, and I say this because we're working with tax dollars, and I just want to make sure that and I know you're doing a wonderful job, and you've heard me say that over and over, all of you. I really appreciate the time and the effort that you're putting in, but please keep in mind the purpose of this committee is actually to review these contracts and making sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. So I still have that concern. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Boswell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so as I reviewed these contacts, I actually had them all of this list of all these to be pulled because I had questions just in general. So I do have a couple of questions. As I look at the services provided by these hubs, it seems like to me when I compare these with other things that we've got going on in the state, there's some duplication going on. Like, for example, our area, the area development districts, they're doing a lot of economic development. Like in Owensboro, in our own town, we have our own economic development program that's being run by our city and our county. And so it concerns me that we've reached a point, we've come out of COVID now, and it seems like to me we're spending an awful lot of money on economic development. Some of it is concerning to me that it may be duplicative. So that's my first question. And the second is, when did these hubs begin?
Ooh, that is a good question.
What, how long have these, who started these, and how long has it been since they were started?
It was under the original, was it Kentucky Innovation Act back in 2001, is when the hubs were originally created and started. And they haven't
Provide a
changed.
little bit more
Yeah.
context.
Mhm.
So originally, when the Kentucky Innovation Hubs program began, it was Kentucky Innovation Offices, and we had people in different communities with the purpose of advancing innovation and entrepreneurship for the average citizen to be able to be provided assistance. Since then, our Hubs contract has sort of evolved to now working directly with community-owned and operated organizations in their community to provide those services. When we issued the request for proposals for the Kentucky Innovation Hubs program, that is why we requested them to identify at least one or two ad districts to work alongside, because in our work with the collaborative blueprint, working alongside economic developers all over the state of Kentucky, we heard from those ad districts that they wanted some additional expertise to be able to work specifically with startups and small businesses in their community. And those hubs serve as that front door.
Oh, okay. I guess, my own viewpoint about this is that we have parts of the state right now that are not doing that well economically, and I certainly see in those areas, but I also see other areas, and I'm going to have to mention, since you were talking about Bowling Green, Bowling Green's doing quite well. It seems like to me that some of these services are duplicative for certain areas of the state. So I think that's the only questions I have.
Any other questions? All right, go ahead.
I don't know if this is more of a question or just a philosophical difference. If you take Bowling Green and Paducah, and I understand how we're funding based on population, among other things, but could they present the argument that, wow, we're doing a great job, but if we had more funding, we could do more?
Truly, all communities could make that argument, but what we're trying to do is, as Monique referenced, is the collaboration blueprint. We're trying to bring together the area development district directors, the entrepreneurship hub offices, all of the different local and regional economic developers to work together to try to tackle economic development across. And that's one of the reasons why we have the meeting today in Hazard, Kentucky, is that we're bringing everybody together to try to work together across all areas to grow economic development here in Kentucky, to help each other out and collaborate.
We do, and you folks have done a great job. I concur with Senator Douglas's assessment of this. Really pleased with what you do. I just want to see it faster, really. And if there's a return on investment, then we can invest more in those areas. And, it's great for Hazard, but what about Hopkinsville? What about Henderson? there's opportunities throughout the state that we really need to catapult this going forward. The economic development we've seen over the last 6-7 years has been phenomenal, but I think we're just scratching the surface, and we need to really run to catch up with the rest of the world. We're going to be challenged with revenue needs in the future. We saw a little bit in this budget. I think we're solid as we've ever been, but we need to grow faster. So again, conceptually, I think we need to invest more money with the expectation we're going to see more return on investment. So that's where I am. But that, Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions. I'll make a motion to approve if no other questions.
All right, I have a motion by Co-Chair Meredith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my I vote, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I've been listening to the questions, and I guess I just take a different viewpoint, which is not unusual sometimes. As I look at the Cabinet Economic Development over the last 5 years, I mean, I see extraordinary growth in terms of what they've done for this state. The 21 billion plus investment in this state, economic development, jobs over 18,000. I mean, I think what you guys have done is incredible. And so, I mean, I trust your judgment in terms of how you're allocating funds across the state to do what needs to be done. Bowling Green is certainly exploding. I was in Bowling Green last week. I'll be in Bowling Green again next week. And so I like what you've done. I think what you've done is well. And so I'm going to defer to your judgment on this. And so I'm going to cast an aye vote.
Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Slim, I vote, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Again, I appreciate the job that you folks do, but let's not lose sight of the regional concept here. We're kind of picking on Bowling Green Day, not picking on Bowling Green. It's a great community. They are growing leaps and bounds. But I represent surrounding counties of Ohio and Butler and Grayson. We're not seeing the growth that these other areas are, and that's what I'm looking for is parity for rural Kentucky. So, again, great discussion. I appreciate the information, but again, I vote aye.
Chairman Hart.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next item on the pooled list are with the Attorney General and our numbers 2 through 14 on the routine PSC green list. If the representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Chairman Hart, Will Schroeder, Senior Counsel for the Attorney General's Office.
Good morning, Justin Clark, Chief of the Civil Division within the Office of Attorney General.
All right, thank you guys for being here. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you all so much. Co-Chair Meredith, Senator Thomas, and myself have some questions, and we'll let Co-Chair Meredith begin.
I do. When you look at these contracts, they go all listed under the Attorney General listing, but you all just have one, which is contract number 3, and the rest are under the Administrative Office of the Courts, and they all have the same contract description. What caught my attention was we're looking at consumer fraud, specifically the Medicaid program. Why is there just one under Attorney General's office and the rest of these fall under the Administrative Office of the Courts?
I think that might be it. I think that's in our area.
Staff is telling me that this may be just a clerical error. Are all these contracts under the Attorney General's office?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. With that, again, explain to me what we're trying to focus on here, because a lot of money here, about $120 million potentially. And I know these are contingent contracts, but is there a particular issue that's driving this right now? And is Medicaid fraud a major driver of this?
No, I would not call it a major driver. I think it was an effort to provide some specificity to the general contract language, because the reason for the RFP that went out initially that the Finance Cabinet ultimately awarded 6 different contracts, and the reason there's 12 contracts is for the biennium issue, because the first contracts cover, I think it was just May to the end of this month, Then there's a 2-year contract starting July 1 to end of June 2026. But the reason we sent out the RFP is when we got into office, we wanted a bit more flexibility on our ability to both be flexible in the choice of outside counsel, but to also be nimble in being able to move with some speed if we have to start an investigation or initiate litigation. This gives us flexibility to look at firms with specific expertise, whether it's within potential Medicaid fraud investigations, antitrust investigations, violations of the Consumer Protection Act, or some general catch-all provisions for violations of Kentucky law. While our staff is full of very smart lawyers, we lack the staff and the resources to really prosecute complex antitrust cases. If there is a complex Medicaid payment fraud issue, cases like that, we feel are best to hire outside counsel to both up front can cover cost of experts, investigation, copies, depositions, and we followed KRS 45 verbatim, put the language of the statute within the contracts to max out any recovery for outside counsel. That's why the big number that looks like $20 million, that's just the max that anyone can recover in Kentucky based on good work the legislature has done to put caps on any recovery. To date, we've not exercised any options under any of these contracts, though I will be frank that we do have some investigations ongoing that if we choose to initiate litigation, we will now be able to use one of these firms based on their expertise to move quickly without having to go back through an RFP process, without having to wait, sometimes without having to highlight that, hey, we have found Medicaid fraud, for example, we need a law firm. You know, sometimes I don't really want to highlight that through the RFP process that we're kicking off an investigation and doing that. This simply allows us to be flexible. But to specifically answer your question, there's nothing that I know of to report to this committee that there's an ongoing issue of Medicaid fraud that we're really digging into. Same with antitrust or existing consumer protection violations. But to the extent those arise, we can now move very quickly and nimbly with a lot of flexibility to get the right people involved at the right time.
How would you become aware of Medicaid fraud?
We, within our office, in our criminal division, have a Medicaid department within the criminal prosecution in it. We have an executive director. We have a staff of investigators. They work closely with our criminal investigators, including the Department of Criminal Investigations. So if we get word or reports of Medicaid fraud or Medicaid issues, whether it's billing, one instance that actually did come up recently was a nursing home issue in Hart County that we had to dig into. That actually kicked off with investigations into Medicaid, but we were able to discern that it's not an issue of Medicaid fraud, it's just a poorly run business. So we were able to go in with subpoenas, gather documents, ultimately shut that down. There is an ongoing criminal investigation into that, but that's an example of our Medicaid department working with DCI and also working with CHFS to make sure that our understanding of who's receiving Medicaid, how it's being used, was appropriate. And my understanding is, to date, that our office within the criminal division has a good working relationship with the cabinet and their Department of Medicaid.
I would assume that in this particular situation, it's was focused on billing for services. What responsibilities do the managed care organizations have for that oversight?
I am not positive I'm the best person to answer that. I know that MCOs play a significant part within Medicaid. With all due respect, that question may be best directed to the cabinet and the Department of Medicaid. We will certainly get called in if there are billing questions or allegations of impropriety. That's what our office is for on the criminal investigation unit. As I sit here today, I do not know of an instance to tell you that one of those is under investigation or isn't. I certainly know there's always a communication about the RFPs for MCOs and the relationships with the cabinet, with Medicaid, but I have not had reason to really look into that since I've been at the office.
Well, I agree. It may be a question for the cabinet or the Department of Medicaid specifically, but when you have what's become a $16 billion program, I would think there's ample opportunities to possibly have some fraud. And I just wonder how aggressive we are being in trying to protect those dollars.
I know that any sort of allocation that comes to our office within that our criminal division will get, a lot of attention because of the issues there. Because that issue does not just simply affect the cabinet. If there are allegations of fraud in the Medicaid billing department, that's a statewide issue.
Exactly.
Because you can start losing federal funds and disrupt federal agency relationships. So that very much is an important issue. As I sit here today, I do not know of an open investigation that's at least come my way in the civil division. But I think the cabinet or Department of Medicaid would probably have better information about that.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Senator Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Senator Meredith may have touched on some of the concerns that I have. I know it's very easy to go after our private sector. Looking at billing issues, and I think part of his question was part of my question, and that is how aggressive are we at looking at the public personal sector, and the MCO certainly can be a part of it. But you may have already answered my question and stimulated my thought process in terms of how can we help you all manage that a little bit more. So I appreciate the information that you've given me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess I'm going to come at this at a different way. Mr. Clark, I've been on this committee for almost a year now. This is the first time I have ever asked for contracts to be pulled. I've never done it until I was reviewing this. And I want to be fair. But first of all, I want to read the list of who these $20 million contracts are going to. One is going to a Dallas, Texas firm. Another is going to a Ridgeland, Mississippi firm. Next is going to a St. Louis, Missouri firm. Then we got a firm in Mentor, Ohio. Then we're giving a contract to a firm in New York City. Next, we're giving a $20 million contract to a firm in Montgomery, Alabama. Then again, the same firm that's in Dallas, Texas is getting a second $20 million contract. That firm in Ridgeland, Mississippi is getting another $20 million contract. The firm in St. Louis, Missouri is getting another $20 million contract. The firm in Mentor, Ohio is getting another $20 million contract. The firm in New York City is getting another $20 million contract. And the firm in Montgomery, Alabama is getting a $20 million contract. My first question is this. Do these firms that are located outside the Commonwealth of Kentucky have Kentucky branches or satellite offices here in the state?
I do not know of any of them having branches or offices within the state. They are all licensed and authorized to do business in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The reason, this RFP goes out nationwide. Kentucky firms are obviously able to bid on it. The fact of the matter is that in some of the scoring, as I understand it, but just as a practical reality, just to use the Medicaid example or a hospital system's billing issue, the firms in Kentucky that may have the expertise to do this sort of complex work, frankly, will all face a lot of conflicts to represent our office in the Commonwealth, because most of them are going to represent MCOs, hospital systems, general contractors, whatever the issue might be, whether it's Medicaid, healthcare billing, antitrust. Those firms are likely, to the extent they have the expertise in Kentucky, conflicted out. Now, it may be that some of these firms nationally with expertise, when they're hired for a particular case, I think it would be in their benefit to partner or co-counsel with a Kentucky-based firm for a lot of reasons. Wouldn't be necessary. I want the best lawyers in the country representing the Commonwealth when it comes to these, because we're dealing with, these would be the most complex issues where a lot of Kentucky firms will have conflicts. But second, I just want to make clear to your question about the $20 million contracts. We haven't paid a dime on these, and the Commonwealth of Kentucky would, again, never pay a dime to any of these firms unless there's a very significant recovery coming through. These are all contingent fees contracts subject to KRS 45A, All the recoveries are capped, and it's actually would take a very significant recovery for any of these firms to get up to that $20 million mark. So this is not an issue of us asking you to authorize us to pay $20 million to a firm in New York for a retainer. This is our effort to have the best budget, best flexibility for the Commonwealth of Kentucky going forward to make sure we have the very best lawyers representing us when it comes to having to hire them.
Well, Mr. Clark, you mentioned in your explanation to Senator Meredith that the work they're going to be doing is antitrust, consumer fraud, Medicaid fraud. You also emphasized the importance of being nimble, being quick, being ready. And it just seems to me that Kentucky firms, Kentucky lawyers, certainly have expertise across the state. You'll find many firms, excellent firms, that do antitrust work, consumer fraud work, Medicaid fraud work. And I should be straightforward saying I'm a member of the bar. And so I know Kentucky attorneys across the state. Senator Meredith, I know attorneys in Litchfield, Kentucky. So I have a hard time grasping that we can't find outstanding attorneys in this state from outstanding firms that can do this quite type of work. Did any Kentucky firms bid on this?
I do not know.
So I can answer that, Senator Thomas. Thank you for the question. Actually, only one Kentucky firm bid on this, and they failed to meet. My understanding is they failed to meet the minimum criteria that was laid out in the RFP. So only one, and they failed to meet the minimum criteria.
I'm glad to hear that, Senator Schroeder. If that's the case, then before I give out, over $200 million in contracts to out-of-state lawyers in my home state of Kentucky, have you thought about rebidding this to try to encourage more Kentucky firms to bid on this? That would have been my approach.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we want the best. And to go back again to the point my co-counsel here made, this isn't, this is contingency fee. I know I don't have to explain that to you. I know you're well aware of what that means. So best case scenario, these firms are going to get that amount, and that would be if they bring back the most that's allowed under statute 45A. For the Commonwealth. So they're bringing back a lot, but at the end of the day, we set up the RFP with the idea that we were going to attract and be able to retain the best lawyers for Kentucky, Kentucky citizens to do the best work.
Well, I guess my final comment is this, and then I'll yield the floor back to the chair. When you make that kind of comment, that somewhat infers that the best cannot be found in Kentucky.
Not at all.
And I would disagree with that. I think Kentucky lawyers are among the best in this country, and quite capable of doing work in the legal areas of antitrust, consumer fraud, and Medicaid fraud.
Absolutely. I certainly agree with that comment, Senator Thomas. I think we do have great attorneys in Kentucky, including ones at the Attorney General's office. However, it is difficult when for various reasons, they might have decided to pass on the RFP, whether it was, they just didn't want to deal with the contingency restrictions or due to potential conflict reasons, they might have passed.
And Senator Thomas, I'm in no way denigrating Kentucky law firms. I was proudly a partner in one of those firms for 16, 17 years, working on antitrust cases, have published decisions on it. My colleagues at that firm are some of the best lawyers I've ever worked with, but that firm did not bid on these, and there's a lot of reasons for that. It goes into the way they bill, the way they typically don't do a lot of contingency fee work, but quite frankly, the more important one are conflicts within the Commonwealth, where a lot of these firms make decisions in Kentucky that they frankly would rather represent the MCO or general contractor or healthcare system to the extent they're not already representing them. That's probably who they're representing and wanting represented, as opposed to either a government state contract or contingent fee where these other firms are set up, this is what they do. And this is the way they operate, it's the way their finances work. They do not have the conflicts with outside private interest in Kentucky.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Representative Pollock.
Gentlemen, just kind of curiosity, recovery dollars last biennium on these contracts is, you have a ballpark, okay, figure on what that looks like if we on recovery?
College World Series starts Friday, so it's very timely. On these particular contracts, none, because none of them have been used. If you want a larger dollar figure on the amounts the Attorney General has recovered through either outside counsel or our own work over the last 5 years, I'm happy to get you those numbers, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have them today.
And I guess my question too, to follow up on that was, money that would recover back in the general fund, I mean, kind of what that process would look like.
Yes, back in the general fund in compliance with any statutes and regulations based on where that recovery is coming from.
Senator Boswell.
Thank you. Representative Pollock asked one of the questions I had, because, you know, I'm a strong believer, and I'm very supportive of contingency contracts. I wish more government agencies were contingent contracts based on production waste. And so, but I do know that most of these contracts are renewable. They're contracts that are being renewed, so there must be some history. I don't understand why some big law firm would want to sign a contract and be a part of this unless they're making money at some point. So these are, if I understand it correctly, contracts that are being renewed. So do you not have any list of successes for the state of Kentucky and the law firm have earned money for the state of Kentucky and for themselves?
For this particular RFP that these by number 12 contracts were issued, these are not renewals. This was an RFP that was sent out earlier this year for the first time. And these 6 law firms were awarded the contracts for this work. So I think my knowledge is a couple of these firms the Commonwealth has done business with in the past under different contracts or different arrangements. I'm happy to get that information to you if they have, but under these contracts, this is the first time the Office of Attorney General has issued an RFP for what we call standby non-guaranteed work. There's no guarantee that we hire any of these firms for anything, but they bid on the work to the extent are needed that we can move quickly without running back through finance cabinet RFP process, and we can get the best people in the country to work on them.
And that makes a lot of sense. I was actually referring to the word, the very first word that says renew.
And Senator, I think part of the confusion here is Mr. Clark stated earlier, you know, we have 6 contracts that run to the end of the month, to June 30, and then the same 6 are coming up again. So we do have, you know, the end of this biennium and then into the next. That might be causing some of the... Okay,
thank you. And then my last question. So the thing that I see in each one of these contracts, it talks about Kentucky Consumer Protection Act. And this is an area of concern I have, because I think there's things going on in the state of Kentucky right now that I'm very concerned about that I don't see anybody particularly addressing. And I'm just going to put this bug in your ear, and I hope that you guys can look at this. So everybody in this room, probably every single day, receives spam calls. And I receive multiple spam calls. And I think this is a pretty serious violation of my rights, and at least it should be. And I wish one of these firms would consider a class action lawsuit against some of these people. And now I know some of them are hard to track because they're from other countries, and I understand that. But some of them are from in this country, and I can name some of them. And I think how many in here get? I don't even have to ask. I know everybody in this room receives spam calls, and it's very difficult, you know, if you're on a business or even if you're in an office, to keep constantly receiving these calls. I get them from all over the state. I'm in a situation where I feel like I need to answer a lot of my calls because they're maybe constituents, maybe from Louisville, maybe from Frankfurt. And I'd like for you guys to consider, as part of this contingency thing, to have a look at these spam calls, see if you can do something about those. Thank you.
I've just got one question. Most of your all's testimony has been great because some of the questions I've had has already been answered. But just thinking back from last month's meeting, you know, a lot of these contracts are similar to some of them that we talked to y'all about. Like with, I think it was with Morgan and Morgan. These all pretty much work the same way. Correct? Am I correct in that?
Yes, Representative. And the Morgan & Morgan contract, you know, specific to the opioid investigation is one our office inherited. And I believe that firm and its contractors on that case are doing excellent work in that case. This was a little bit of a follow-up on that of using that contract system, but to put together a more thorough RFP that allows multiple firms to bid to where that we're not exactly, and I don't want to, it's not in no way disparaging to the outside firms we're working with on opioids or anything else, but we did not want to be limited in our options of having to try to renew a prior contract or to only be stuck with one law firm to do that work. This was an effort to take that idea, but to branch it out so we could be a lot quicker and have much more options with a broader variety of law firms with expertise.
All right. Thank you so much. If there's no other questions, do I have a motion for approval? Have a motion by Senator Boswell.
Second.
Second by Co-Chair Meredith. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my no vote.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, there are over 3,000 attorneys here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, probably close to like 10,000. Okay? And we're talking about areas that are not really, you know, that extraordinarily complex. And antitrust has some complexity to it. Consumer fraud, not so much. Medicaid, some. And we have outstanding law firms and outstanding attorneys throughout Kentucky. And what we've been asked today is to award over $200 million in contracts in these areas to attorneys in Texas, Mississippi, Ohio, just to name a few. I can't go along with that, and I'm not going to add my name to the list of those who support this. No, these contracts should go to Kentucky attorneys, and if not many Kentucky attorneys bid, then it should be rebid. And Senator Hart, to your point, I think the difference in relying on Morgan & Morgan goes back to the very first question I asked, which was, do these attorneys have branches or satellite offices in Kentucky? Are they using Kentucky attorneys who are licensed here, who reside here, who make Kentucky their home? And I was told no. So because of those reasons that I've enumerated, I'm a no vote on this one.
Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith. Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for being here.
Thank you.
The next item on the pool list is with the Council on Post-Secondary Education, and is number 27 on the routine PSC green list. If the representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. Travis Powell, Vice President General Counsel for CPE.
All right, could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you so much, and I believe Senator Douglas has a question.
I do. Thank you so very much, Chairman Hart. This contract is for an external evaluator. Is that, in fact?
That's correct.
Okay. Would you explain very quickly to the people in this room and the people who are watching what the job description entails? In
Okay.
terms of what kind of information are you going to be giving us?
Sure. So in House Bill 250, adopted in the 2022 regular session, that's the legislation that provided KSU with some funding in order to get out of financial trouble that they were in, and also required that CP implement a management improvement plan for Kentucky State University. that covers about 8 areas of the institution, pretty much all consuming of all areas of the institution. And as part of that management plan, the CPE was required to set some objectives and goals and benchmarks for the institution to meet over this period. This started in beginning of 2022. It will end November 1st. We have to have a final report to you all on KSU's progress in November 1st of 2025. And so throughout that process, the legislation required that we contract with an outside evaluator to evaluate the progress that the institution has made towards the metrics and goals set by CPE during that time. So that's what the vendor does for us.
If I may, Mr. Hart, Representative Hart, are you having conversation with the administration at Kentucky State University regarding what you are finding and the things that you can do, or at least the people that you're representing, to help them move forward?
Oh, absolutely. My friends from KSU here in the audience here, we're in conversations with them every single day. So on various items. Of course, we set the goals for the plan, and we work with them towards meeting those goals. We provide assistance. Ultimately, it is their responsibility, and it's the responsibility of this vendor in order to validate their progress that they've made. But we are day in, day out working with KSU in order to help them to meet these goals.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to make it clear that there was two-way communication so that when we actually when we get to the end and we get our report, there's none of this, well, we didn't know this and we didn't know that, because often we see those kinds of things. There was inadequate communication. We did not understand what the goals were. So I really do appreciate you updating us on that.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. And I will say we are in constant communication with KSU, and even this vendor, has come onto campus before, met with them for a couple days. We plan on having them come back in the fall. And as they develop their final report for the plan, too, we'll have them come back again. So it's been a very engaging process amongst all parties.
Thank you so very much for your time. Thank
Yes.
you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. Co-Chair Meredith.
Just a very brief comment. Our first Education Committee meeting during the interim was a report from Kentucky State University. You folks did a fantastic job. I wish everyone's on this committee could have been privy to that. It would give you, I think, a high confidence level that they're moving things in the right direction. Just want to give a shout out to you folks. Great presentation, great job, and just continue doing what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, do I have a motion for approval? Motion by Co-Chair Meredith, second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith. Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you so much for being here. The next items on the pool list are with the Department for Public Health, and is number 35 on the routine PSC green list and number 191 on the routine MOA pink list. If representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. I'm Andy Waters, Assistant Division Director for Maternal and Child Health.
Good morning. I am Tracy Jewell, Manager of the Program Support Branch within the Division of Maternal and Child Health.
All right, thank you so much. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you all so much. I believe Co-Chair Meredith has some questions.
Yes, thank you for being here this morning. Just a couple of simple questions, I think. This is renewal. How long have we had this contract with this particular company?
That contract was executed with the company maybe about 5 years ago?
Yes.
Through a competitive RFP procurement.
But how many years have they had it?
About 5 years.
5 total.
And where does the database reside? Who has ownership for it?
The contract stipulates that the Commonwealth is the owner of all data that is collected by market decisions.
And what are we doing with the data?
I'll let Tracy speak to that.
The data is used for grant reporting and requirements of fulfilling the cooperative agreement with the Centers for Disease Control. And then it is also used in looking at gaps in service areas that across the Commonwealth that we can improve programs for services across the state to help mothers and children.
I assume that we're doing this retrospectively, so 5-year contract, we've had 4 years of data. Are we moving the needle?
We are in certain areas, and then we have also found other areas that need improvement as well.
Can you give me some specifics on that?
Well, we have greatly improved the women who are receiving prenatal care early. They are getting into care earlier and receiving the appropriate amount of prenatal care services that they need. Some areas that we have identified thus far for improvement are related to mental health services and postpartum visits for women who have recently had a live birth.
We collect a lot of data in this state, a lot. Do you think this has value?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right, I have a question. It's on 191, your contract, on the tick research. Could you maybe give us a little education on it? Okay.
It's been a while since I've done rickettsial research. That's some of my colleagues.
Yes, please come forward if you can. We should have done it. I should have waited on that. Let them report and then. I was just curious on the other contract you all have before our committee. You're all doing research on tick bites and ticks, and I was just wanting a little bit more information on how that research is going and what it all entails.
Sure, I can talk to that. I'm Carol Rush, the Reportable Diseases Section Manager at the Kentucky Department for Public Health. So this is a contract with the University of Kentucky, and it helps fund one of their graduate students to do this work. The program has a few different prongs to it. We run a voluntary tick submission program where citizens, primarily veterinarians, but citizens can also submit ticks that they find on themselves or their animals. Those are sent to the UK lab where they will identify the species of tick and then possibly do some pathogen testing to see what diseases are circulating in our tick population. So that's the first piece. The second piece is that the graduate student will actually go out and do active tick dragging. So going to counties and looking to see if they can identify certain species, how many they can identify, and then again doing that pathogen testing to see what is circulating in our population. And then the third piece is that we also have staff in another division within the department that will go out and actively tick drag as well, and they submit their ticks to UK as well. So the whole goal is to, first of all, identify the presence of certain tick species throughout Kentucky counties. Of course, the two that we are most interested in finding are the black-legged tick, which carries Lyme disease, and then the Asian longhorn tick, which is invasive and has been identified in 10 Kentucky counties. And then secondarily, once we have identified tick presence in the counties, we will move towards looking at tick abundance, and then also figuring out what pathogens our citizens are at risk for if they get bitten by a tick.
All right, thank you so much. And I do have to apologize to the committee. I got a little ahead of myself. We need to probably back up. Do we have any more questions on the first contract on the PSC green list, number 35?
Motion approved.
I have a motion to approve by Senator Meredith, second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Aye. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Now back to contract 191. I think Representative Pollock has a question.
I do. So, on your research, when I was a kid way back, I had no issues. Apparently, obviously, as a kid being in the woods and getting a tick bite on me. And with this day and time, it seems like I've got 2 grandkids now, and I mean they're all scared to death of a tick. So my question is, in looking at the research, what's the difference with the tick back in my day and the tick this day?
Dinosaurs ate them.
Yes. So there are several things going on. Obviously, we've got, tick vector species are expanding. So we know that the black-legged tick, for example, is expanding its range, which has mostly been in the upper Midwest and New England. So we know it's going south and west. We also know that we have invasive species being introduced, like the Asian longhorn tick. And I would say, you know, part of it is that as we experience a series of mild winters, you know, it doesn't knock the tick population down as much. They obviously really like humid, moist environments. So the more that it rains, the more humid it is, the better the tick species do as well there. So that's definitely all part of it. We also know that, you know, for example, the black-legged tick really relies on the white-footed deer mouse, and then deer also provide a good source of food. And as you all can tell by all the roadkill, we've got a lot of deer in Kentucky. So we just have a great situation where we've got everything that the ticks need to really thrive. And then the other piece that I would say too is I think our laboratory diagnostics have gotten better. You know, we've certainly gotten better at identifying infections, and as part of that, we're also learning about new infections that ticks could possibly carry.
Now, most ticks carry Lyme disease. Is that the whole issue? And a lot of, because I mean, obviously you're hearing a lot of that.
Most ticks don't carry Lyme disease, fortunately, in Kentucky, but Lyme disease is one of those one of those diseases that if you get it and it's not treated, it can cause some serious, lifelong consequences, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Senator Douglas.
Just a very quick question, because one of the things I was hearing Representative Pollock sort of infer is, and you can probably clarify, has there been an increase in the pathogenicity of the ticks today versus pathogenicity of the ticks 25 years ago?
30. 40.
So, to the best of my knowledge, ticks today are not any better at transmitting infections than they were in the past. I think greater awareness by physicians and citizens has certainly increased awareness, basically, and concern.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Senator Boswell.
Thank you. Yeah, I probably had more ticks on me probably than everybody in this room put together. I've had one time where I was wearing white socks, and when I came out of the woods, my socks were brown. And so, and I've had Lyme disease. So I just want to make one comment, one observation from my own personal experience as spending a lifetime in the woods, a lot of hunting and fishing and other farm-related activities. I have found that in river bottoms, very few ticks. If you get into hill country, any type of a hill country, or just general, but in areas, just for your people, maybe pass that on. Be glad to talk to them sometime. River bottoms, areas where where flooding takes place, very few, if any, ticks.
All right, if there's no other questions, do I have a motion for approval?
Motion.
Motion by co-chair Meredith, second Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Aye. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
I vote aye, and my apologies to Representative Pollock for the dinosaur comment. I didn't mean to tick you off.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you all so much. Need a drummer.
That's good, Chair. That's good.
The next items on the pull list are with the Department of Corrections on our numbers 45 and 46 on the routine PSC green list. If the representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself. And I think they're virtual. Oh, okay.
Good morning, Angela Dunham. Good morning, Angela Dunham, Deputy General Counsel for the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet.
Good morning, Nathan Goins with the Office of Legal Services, Justice and Public Safety Cabinet.
All right, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you so much, and I think Co-Chair Meredith has some questions.
I do, and it's very simple, straightforward question. Again, all we get is a capsule summary of what these contracts are for, and both these contracts, the description is the same. It's provide counsel for litigation with Jonathan G. Hall. While there are two different contracts, why aren't this covered under one contract?
Well, actually, only one contract is for Jonathan Hall. Sorry. That would be contract number 2596. That is represent Jonathan Hall in Smith v. Tyler, a case pending in the United States District Court for the Western District of Kentucky. Contract number 2595. That is Crawford versus Tilley. It is also a case pending in the United States District Court, but the outside counsel in that case will be representing, make sure I get it because there are a lot of defendants in this case, I'm sorry, the former warden of the Kentucky State Reformatory, Aaron Smith, excuse me, Aaron Smith, and I think, who else is, I think that's it. Yeah, that might be their only defendant in that case.
But they are separate cases. I don't know if
Yes.
there's a mix-up with the descriptions.
Yeah, I just want clarification on that because it
Yes.
said the same. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to approve. No.
Get motion by co-chair Meredith for approval.
I do have.
Oh, you got a question, Senator Boswell?
Yeah, so this is thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is an ongoing litigation.
Yes.
I mean, how long is this expected to go on? And we've got $250,000. I mean, this is turning into to be a lot of money. How long has the case been on? And is it close to being settled? What's the problem?
Well, the Smith v. Tyler case is actually very close to being settled. We have a proposed settlement agreement in that case right now. We're waiting for the plaintiff's attorney to review. So the hope is that that will be settled very soon.
Okay.
The Crawford v. Tilley case is a very complicated case. It's a wrongful death case. And there are a lot of defendants in the case. We have the former Justice Cabinet Secretary, the former DOC Commissioner, the former warden, but there's also, I think it's correctional defendants, excuse me, correct care staff, also Madison County Detention Center. And what you have in that situation, because I reviewed the docket sheet this morning, is that you have all these different defendants. There are a variety of attorneys involved in those cases, and they've had about 3 different scheduling orders involved in that case. So that's what's making that case drag on for so long. The latest scheduling order, however, was put in place in February of this year, and allegedly, hopefully, the dispositive motion deadline, which is currently set, is for February 2025. So hopes is very clear that maybe we will actually hit that deadline. But we're moving slowly, but that is just a very complicated case.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have a motion by co-chair Meredith for approval. Do I have a second? Second by Senator or Representative Pollock. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas.
Aye.
Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
The next item on the pool list, or the next items on the pool list, are with the Department of Education on our numbers 56 through 59 on the routine PSC green list, and numbers 308, 320 through 327, 341, 362, and 363 on the routine MOA pink list. If representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Karen Worth. I'm the director in the Division of Budgets and Financial Management at the Department of Education.
Mickey Ray, Chief Academic Officer at the Kentucky Department of Education.
All right, thank you all so much. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you so much. And I believe co-chair Meredith has some questions.
I do, regarding the University of Louisville Research Foundation contract. This is the first year for this contract? Are they assuming the work that was previously done by the Collaborative Center for Literacy Development?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's brand new. We've moved that function to there. Well, look forward to see what kind of work they can do. I see that the amount is comparable, the same as we did for the previous contract. But we had a 20-year relationship, $60 million, and didn't move the needle. So, again, just kind of put everybody on notice. We'll be looking for this to make sure that we're moving this forward. But just want to make sure that this was, I was correct in my assumption, this is the first-time contract.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Is there any other questions on contract number 56?
Motion approved.
Motion by co-chair Meredith to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Pollock. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Nay.
Senator Douglas.
I'll vote aye, but explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
You know, Mr. Chairman, I hear the concerns that Senator Meredith have, and I have the same concerns that we continually ask to go down the same paths that really aren't moving us forward. It's one thing to not be moving us forward very quickly, but sometimes these paths aren't moving us forward at all. And so I too will be watching this particular contract, because if we don't start seeing some return on the dollars, and I think we would do the same thing in our homes if we bought a product that continually failed. I don't think we'd keep going back every year or every 2 years buying that particular product. We have to be able to pivot at some point and say, I know this should work, but it isn't. And so perhaps we need to look at it in a different light. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith. Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. The next contracts for review are 57, 58, and 59, and I think Senator Douglas has some questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Could you all please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, sir. I'm Che Ritter with the Kentucky Department of Education.
Elisa Hanley, Kentucky Department of Education.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Senator Douglas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Explain this to me, if you would. I mean, especially contracts number 57 and 58. Are these two individuals, do they have a particular office that they go to? I'm trying to find out what the purpose is. And yes, I can read. I see what it says here, but I'm not sure that I'm truly understanding.
Sir, they do not have offices that they go to. They actually go to districts throughout the state. So they work from wherever they're at in our districts, and then put in their reports from their homes.
If you would, please put in what reports. I mean, tell me about the reports.
So
if you would, please.
Okay. So they go to our school districts to they do reviews on the transportation in the districts. So they're looking for state compliance of regulations, statutes, safety of the school buses, of the drivers, of the area as a whole. And they report back to us whether or not they are in compliance, or if there are areas that need to be worked on or fixed, or if everything looks good. And then that's what they're putting into our system of specific questions that we're asking them. And they include at some point, sometimes pictures if there are issues, so that we can see it. And we at KDE will address those directly, or the contractor, for instance, the one in front of us, may go back and assist them further to get them on the right track, because our purpose and our mission is the safest form of transportation. So they are here to help us. We have a very small office of 2 people that actually go out into the districts that do this. So we use our contractors to supplement that as well.
May I ask one more question, Mr. Chair? With that being said, could you help me how this correlates with some of the issues that we had in Jefferson County earlier?
Sorry about that. Trying to find the button. The issues at JCPS, I think, were, our staff, including the contractors, are looking for compliance with driver training records, bus inspections. And I'll give you a real life example. If they're inspecting a bus and they see rust, they see a bolt missing. I mean, it's very fine-tooth stuff. I mean, it's pretty impressive to what they can catch. Even holes in the seats, they'll write them up for it. This is done at every single school district that transports students. As Alyssa said, it's just 100% about safety. We don't want kids, obviously, on buses that have any mechanical issues, or even the potential for mechanical issues. So we weren't involved in much of what was going on at JCPS, because it wasn't safety or compliance issues with state law as far as our paperwork and inspection of buses, inspection of driver train records. However, we continue to work with JCPS in that regard. Alyssa's branch typically goes out and they do a lot of driver training. They do train the trainer training, and they inspect buses. These are kind of the three primary things we do. Does that help answer your question?
It does.
Senator?
So essentially, we can expect to not have this be part of the excuse for an inefficient transportation system down the road. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If there's no other questions, do I have a motion for approval? Motion by Co-Chair Meredith, second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell,
I'm going to vote no, and I want to explain my vote. I see this as, I'm maybe using this word a lot today, duplicative. Like, for example, in Davis County, I have friends, the person who's head of all the buses, and I've talked to him about his job and what he did a lot of times, and I felt like he covers a lot of this, and it seems duplicative to me.
Senator Douglas,
Aye.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton, Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Pollock,
Yes.
Senator Meredith, Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you all so much. The next group of contracts is on the routine or the pink, the MOA pink list, and it's numbers 308, 320 through 327, 341, 362, and 363. And I think Senator Douglas has a question pertaining to all of them.
If I may, Mr. Chair, may I also ask a question about 59 on the green list, number 3876?
Sure.
I beg your indulgence, but I do have a question there. We're asking for over $500,000 for a screener for kindergarten readiness. Over $500,000 and $680,000 and change for kindergarten readiness. Could you? I'm a doctor, right? And I always say I'm not expecting anyone in the first, second, third, or fourth grade to get a job with IBM, to get a job with Toyota, to get a job with any of these huge companies. They have to be ready for those. So help me, if you would, and help the people who are watching this today understand why we need a screener for kindergarten readiness when we have wonderful teachers in our schools who are very, very, very competent and very, very well trained in teaching our students.
Thank you, Senator Douglas. I should have Associate Commissioner Rhonda Sims on with our Office of Assessment and Accountability. This is her area of expertise and can speak on the actual work of the contract. I can share that there was an RFP done for this. There was a competitive solicitation. We did have 4 responses, and this vendor was chosen. Associate Commissioner Sims, I don't know if she's available or
Yes.
online. Okay.
Here.
Great.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I'll be happy to respond to Senator Douglas. I will indicate that this contract is based on Kentucky revised administrative regulation 704-5:070. It was a requirement that came out of a task force, I think, that started in 2009. The first assessments were given in 2012. Part of what this does, it allows some data for early childhood to assist providers to make sure that as students enter the system, they are working through parents and providers to have a level of readiness to learn. And it does give information on, is a student ready? Are they ready if they have additional interventions? Are they sort of above ready? Are they ready with enhancements? So it is to get our students started on the right track as they move into formal education. But it is a response to what is required in Kentucky administrative regulation.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'll be looking into that regulation as to why someone, I wasn't here at the time, decided that we needed to pre-screen kindergartners.
Again, it's not
Kids who don't sometimes, kids who sometimes don't even know how to tie their own shoe. But we're going to pre-screen them to enter an education system that is supposed to start with a very, very basic education and move them forward.
And the goal is obviously to find out where students do need that immediate assistance as they're moving in to become ready, to become those early readers and early work. It also informs early childhood education and the programs that can be provided for support there.
I do appreciate that, but I still remember being in the first grade and having my teacher multiple times pull me from under the desk because I thought my desk was a car engine and I was fixing it. I don't know whether someone would have said I was ready for even first grade at that time. But again, I want to give a shout out to the teachers that we have here in the Commonwealth. And I think often we don't appreciate the talented teachers that we have in this Commonwealth. And we try to prep kids in a way that it makes it almost impossible for those teachers to do the job for which they've been well trained with the care and the empathy that they bring into the classrooms. And I'm really concerned about the number of things that we're heaping on these young, malleable minds that we expect them to get that they're likely not going to retain. I did ultimately figure out how to work on car engines, and my teacher did not send me to any special sessions because she had to keep pulling me from under the desk. So I will be looking into this particular area because I want to make sure that we are spending our tax dollars here in the Commonwealth in a way that is going to move our kids forward at the appropriate time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Co-Chair Meredith, I think you have a question on number 341.
I do, and it's along the same vein as Senator Douglas's. This is a list of our contracts for us to review for this meeting alone. And the bulk of them are either attorney contracts or they're consulting contracts. And I don't know about any of my colleagues, but since we adjourned on April 15th, a lot of attention being given to teacher pay increases, but also about the quality of their work life. I don't know how many millions of dollars we're spending on consulting agreements, but to me, the greatest predictor of a student's success is the quality teacher. They don't want just pay increases. They want a better quality of work life, which means reducing the bureaucracy, smaller class sizes. And I wonder if we really made a concerted effort to take these dollars that we're spending on consulting agreements and put them back at the school level, if that more than anything wouldn't impact student outcomes, and I believe that it would. Now, I'm not blaming you folks. You know, we're all victims of a system that has blown out of proportion. Discussion about the transportation. Understand it, but really, I think that should be a local issue. But many of the issues we deal with should be local. We have school boards that are responsible for the quality of education. We have superintendents responsible for quality of education. But if we keep pushing this up to the state level and the national level, we're never going to have impact because there's no meaning, there's no ownership for it. And I think this particular contract, and let me find it. Excuse me, 341. Yeah. Excuse me, I like manual dexterity. Description is provide funds for excellent leadership, support, and service for the certification branch, Office of Licensure, Effectiveness in School Districts, $70,000. Is this the best way to spend this money? I don't think it's, again, I think it's just a philosophical difference that we have about how dollars should be spent. And when I met with the Kentucky School Superintendents Association last fall, there's about a dozen of us met with them. We talked about this very subject. There's got to be more local accountability, and we're taking that away from them. I think the Department of Education, there should be a servant-master relationship here, but we've kind of got this twisted. I don't think we're viewing our schools as the masters. We should be serving them, but it works the other way. So Again, we could talk about this all day, but I just have concerns about these contracts as well. Too many consulting contracts, not just for your department, throughout state government. And I don't think we get our return on investment for those. But, so really not a question, Mr. Chair, just a comment.
Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion to approve contracts number 308, 320 through 327, 341, 362, and 363 on the routine MOA pink list?
Would you like to include 341 in that, Mr. Chair?
I did.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I'll make that motion.
Okay. Motion made by co-chair Meredith, second by Senator Thomas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell,
I'm going to vote aye, and I do agree with Senator Meredith that we're going to have to start taking a hard look at these. I think teacher pay is a much higher priority than some of these things we're spending money on.
Senator Douglas,
I'll vote aye, but may I explain my vote? Again, I also agree with Senator Boswell and Senator Meredith in this particular space. I think we educate our population. We educate those folks who are supposed to be teaching our kids, and then we walk behind them and we second guess them every day. And not only do we second guess them, we pay people to second guess them. And then when our teachers are saying, look, we can't do all of these things, people want to criticize them. And they're being asked to do things for which they weren't trained to do. And they're being trained by best practices. So there's just a clash of too many things that we are asking our wonderful teachers to do. And then we're saying, we want you to do it for this amount. And they're saying that wasn't part of the deal. So I just have concerns in this area. That's all for our teachers. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton, Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Pollock,
Yes.
Senator Meredith,
I'll explain my no vote, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Again, it's just symbolic. Obviously, these contracts are going to pass, but I just want you to understand how serious we are about this. So we've got to change this dynamic, and we're not working against you folks. We want to work with you, but we truly want to improve the quality of life of our educators and give them a wage that really incentivizes them to stay in the profession and encourage young people to come into the profession. But I'm a no, Mr. Chair.
Chairman Hart,
Yes, motion carries. And before we move forward, could you all please identify yourself for the record? I don't think I got that.
I'm Todd Davis, the Director of Division of Educator Preparation Certification at KDE.
I'm Reagan Satterwhite. I'm a policy advisor at KDE in the Office of Career and Technical Education.
All right, thank you all so much. Motion carries. All right, the next items on the pull list are with the Department of Insurance and is number 68 on the routine PSC green list. If the representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. This is Sharon Clark. I'm Commissioner at the Kentucky Department of Insurance.
All right, thank you so much. Could you please raise your right hand?
Yes, sir, and I have another lady.
Okay, I'm
with me.
sorry.
I'm Lee Webb, Division Director for Licensing.
All right. If both of you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. I think Senator Boswell has some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, they're on the. The questions I have to do with, I have some experience. I was an independent insurance agent for 10 years and have taken the insurance exam quite some time ago. Based on what I know about it, the questions that are on those exams are pretty static. There's not that much that's changed. I mean, I know there's some things that have changed, but relatively speaking, there's not that much that's changed. And I guess a couple of questions I have is, one is, why is this test updated every year? And I'll ask that one first.
we analyze every question and how it performs throughout each test that is given. And we have to look at the performance on an annual basis. We focus on life and health exams one year, and then property and casualty focused items the next year. So this service will take every question, analyze it to see if it could be reworded to perform better, or if it's just a really good question that doesn't need any updating. People, just need to study a little more. But in general, they just, we do change the choices. Every exam item has a STEM question with 4 multiple choice selections. So we might change one of the choices to make it a little bit more reasonable for understanding. And then we just go from there. We update, we remove items, we replace items, and we just have a very large pool of items to pick from.
Okay, thank you. And the second question I had, this $90,000, that's not the actual cost of them giving the exam, just the preparation of the questions that are on the exam?
That's correct. Kentucky Department of Insurance administers our own examinations.
Okay. Well, I would just say this. When you go into the insurance business, I have a nephew who's just recently started as an independent insurance agent also. Most of what you learn in the insurance business has come through training. Most companies require that new agents go through a certain amount of training, and they don't just start out doing a lot of things. And I think this is to have these changes and to spend this $90,000 is in my opinion one thing that we could probably do without. So that's just based on my own experience. I understand what you're doing. I don't think it's necessary. I think this should be changed. If you're going to make these changes, it should be done maybe every 3 to 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If there's no other questions, do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Representative Pollock,
Second.
second by Co-Chair Meredith. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
No.
Senator Douglas.
No.
Senator Thomas.
Aye.
Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yeah.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
The next items on the pull list are with the Department of Veterans Affairs and are items number 76 and 82 through 87 on the routine PSC green list. If representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Mark Bowman. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs Office of Kentucky Veteran Centers.
All right, thank you so much. I think Senator Boswell has a question.
Yes. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your attendance today. Obviously, everybody in this room is very concerned about veterans, and we don't even have to talk about that. I think that the question I have today is it's a broad question. Where does the responsibility of the federal government end, and where does the responsibility of the citizens of the state of Kentucky begin? For example, here there's a lot of money here, about $10 million, I think, altogether. If you take all these contracts together, there's one for $7.5 million for pharmaceuticals. And so, again, we all understand that the importance of veterans. I'm on BMAT committee,
Sure.
and but maybe you can help me to understand, maybe the members of this committee, where we decide what should be taken care of by the federal government, and then what responsibility then lies with the people of Kentucky. And I'll just follow before you answer that question. Just recently, we built a brand new Veterans Center in Bowling Green, which I supported, and I think it was probably unanimous vote. And it was a shared expense. The federal government put up a large portion of that, and we put up a pretty significant amount to help veterans. So we're doing a lot to help the veterans of the state of Kentucky. I'm just not sure where we draw the line.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question, and it's one of probably the least understood reimbursement mechanisms. So really, the state veterans home program, which we are part of, and there's only 170 state veterans home facilities throughout the nation. And what you were talking about on the construction grant side, the federal government pays for a large percentage of that, and then the state has a match. After it's up and running, then you get into the federal portion of that. There's two types of reimbursement in the state veterans home program. One is a basic per diem, and a basic per diem is simply meant to be a partnership from the state and the federal government, and the federal government's augmenting the overall operations. So they're going to provide, in this case, I think the current basic rates are like $137. That helps augment the other payer sources to provide the care and services that we provide for veterans. The second per diem is a prevailing rate, and many people understand this to be the service-connected disability rating for a veteran. That's an all-inclusive capitated rate for those that are adjudicated at 70% or above service-connected disability rating, or in a case of a 60% service-connected disability rating and permanently unemployable. Those people can go into the state veterans home program. Those veterans come in, and it's a capitated rate. So we got two per diem rates, a basic one to help augment people that aren't service-connected, then the higher rate to take care of those that, of course, certainly deserve that augmentation. The rest of it is the state's responsibility. So it's a shared responsibility, very clearly defined in the federal statutory guidelines for that program.
So this would be the same with every state. There's basically a statute that says that the
Yes,
people
sir.
of the state of Kentucky are required to pay all these fees because the government is not picking that portion.
Yeah. So the statute doesn't really force a state to participate in the program, but if they so choose to participate in the program, there's those three opportunities, the grant and the per diem payments. There are states that have multiple facilities, some only have one, but in this program, the State Veterans Home Program, it's very unique, and it's outlined under 38 CFR, specifically mostly under 51 under the per diem payment program. Yes, sir.
Is there any other questions? If not, do I have a motion to consider the contract review without objection?
Second.
A motion made by co-chair Meredith, second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith. Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you so much for being with us. Go
Chair,
ahead.
if I may, I would be glad to send that 38 CFR so you can see the different, if you're interested in that, the programs, and also embedded in there is the grant construction program. That way you can see it in the statutory language, if you'd like.
I appreciate that. I would just say, being on VMAP, there's a whole lot of other programs that are involved in this other than just this program.
Yes, sir.
It's a wider range of veteran services that we do throughout the state of Kentucky.
Yep.
And it just seems like in some cases, the federal government should be picking up a larger portion of those costs.
Understand. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
The next items on the pool list are with Eastern Kentucky University and are numbers 105 and 108 on the routine PSC green list. If you would you please identify yourself for the record?
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Micah Hunsucker. I'm the Director of Procurement for EKU.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Brian Mackinnon, Chief Campus Operations Officer for EKU.
All right, thank you so much. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes. And I also want to note for the committee, number 105 was withdrawn by the university yesterday afternoon. So with that, I think Senator Boswell has a question on number 108.
Yes, thank you, for being here today. So I'm looking at this number here, $8,940,000. It says it's to provide funds for architectural design and engineering services for the replacement of the model laboratory school. What is the total cost of that project?
Total cost is $149 million.
And has that been approved? Has that been approved for construction by the General Assembly?
Yes, sir.
And when was that?
For this biennium, we got the second tranche of money. The first $90 million came in the previous, and then the remainder of the funds came in this.
Okay, so what percent does this represent then of the total contract?
You're looking at just over 8%.
Can I interrupt you? Is your microphone on?
I'm sorry. Yes, my apologies.
Right.
It's just over 8%.
And so what this was, I'm assuming this contract, there was some type of bid process. Are you finding that in projects having to do with your with these type things, are they a straight 8%? I mean, how do we arrive at this 8%? It seems like that most of these contracts that come through they seem almost like they're coming in this 8 to 10% range, and it sounds kind of excessive for me. But
in my experience, that's rather customary. Being part of APA as well, we look at the national backdrop of what these fees traditionally cost, and we weigh ourselves certainly with that. Taking a step back, we did open in a fair and competitive bid process to select an architectural firm with consultants to meet the needs of the institution. And out of that fair and competitive bid process, once the successful bidder is selected, we go into negotiations at that time to come up with the rates for their services they'll provide, assuring that they're going to meet the specifics of what the university requested.
last question, this amount, this $8,900,000, does that represent the total amount for this project, or has there been money paid already, and will there be future money do you expect?
There has not been money paid already. We will turn in a new contract for the next biennium to begin July 1 in the coming days. We are still working out the details of this project. This is, my understanding is, it is the base amount for the fee, and depending on the addition or subtraction of any sort of consultants, the figure could go up or down with the contract that we will file for the next biennium.
So it's not likely to go down, I don't think. I think we all probably know it's probably going to go up. So that's just one of my concerns, generally speaking. So I think you've answered my question.
If there's no other questions, do I have a motion by co-chair Meredith second by Representative Pollock. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my aye vote.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I don't have a problem with the amount at all. I recognize that architects cost money, attorneys cost money, doctors cost money. So I don't have a problem with issue with the money at all. I know Ross Tarrant Architects. They are an exceptional architectural firm. Going back to the point I made earlier this morning, at least I'm pleased to see that we got a Kentucky architect to do this work. I mean, that is what I'm pleased about. I'm not concerned about the cost. What I'm troubled about is when we have people right here in our own hometown who can do the high quality of work, who can do good work. I want to emphasize that word good. They do good work here in the state, and yet we go to Mississippi, and we go to Ohio, and we go to New York City to retain their services. That's what galls me. So I'm glad you're using Ross Tarrant Architects. I vote aye.
Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you all so much for being with us.
Thank you.
The next items on the pool list are with the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority, and our numbers 165 and 173 on the routine PSC and green list. If representatives are here, please come forward and identify yourself for the record, and we will do these one at a time. We'll do 165 first.
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Adkins. I'm the Deputy Executive Director at Kentucky Public Pensions Authority.
I'm Michael Board. I'm the Executive Director for the Office of Legal Services at the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority.
All right, could you all please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you all so much. And on number 65 or 165, Senator Boswell has a question.
Thank you. This is an ongoing case. According to the description of this case, it's been going on since 2019, and we've got a situation where we're paying up to $837 an hour for counsel. Can you give us a little more information about this case? Are we being sued by someone in California? It appears that we are. And when do you expect, how much money have we put into this case so far, and how much longer do you expect this to go on, or do you have any idea? I mean, is this going to be one of those things that's going to be forever? It seems like there should be some resolution to this case.
So yes, this has been going on since 2019. We are being sued in California, and so we had to retain counsel in California to represent us there in that case. We would love for it to be resolved as soon as possible, just like everyone else. We are actively working towards resolution in this case, as well as a plethora of other cases that are tangentially connected to this case, both here in Kentucky and California and in another state. So we work towards that every day, towards some sort of resolution with those matters. I wish I could give you a better time frame on when we could anticipate a resolution, but a lot of that is out of our control, as other parties have to come to the table in that matter. And so we're working on that, but I just can't give you an exact figure or exact date. And as far as the figure that you asked about of how much we have spent on this, I don't have that with me, but I can get that for you if you'd like me to send that on.
Okay. Can you give us an idea about what this case involves?
Yes.
It seems like that, I just wonder if it seems like that sometimes being from Kentucky, that we have more problems with somebody in California filing a lawsuit against us. Is that one of those cases?
This is a case that stems from, I think everyone on the panel may be familiar with what started out in the late 2017 as what was colloquially known as the Mayberry lawsuits that involved the Kentucky retirement systems, where a number of the members of the retirement systems sued the retirement systems for some hedge fund investments. And that case has spawned a series of other lawsuits, both here in Kentucky in federal court and in California and Delaware. One of the hedge funds that we invested in at that time was PAMCO. PAMCO is based in California, and this is the lawsuit they filed against us in California, in which we are defending ourselves there.
Thank you. That answers a lot of questions. And when was that investment made? Do you know what year?
The original investments, I believe, were made in 2011. And they wrapped up since then. They've ended since then, but we're still dealing with some of the fallout of that lawsuit from 2017.
Thank you.
Senator Thomas.
No, Senator Boswell asked the question that I was going to ask, so thank you.
Motion approved.
Motion by co-chair Meredith for approval, second by Representative Pollock. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
A reluctant aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. The next contract up for discussion is number 173, and co-chair Meredith has some questions.
Consulting contract, it's a renewal. Is this every year with this company?
No, sir. This is their proposal from the RFP was about an 18-month contract. The idea is in theory, they should be out in about December. It's gone a little bit slower. We've had a few delays. It's an hourly rate, so if we don't work the hours, we're not paying for the hours. We could cut it off at any time, but right now they're really being very helpful to us. We did, because we had the opportunity to extend it 1 year from the original contract, we went on and put it through June. I suspect it won't go all the way through June, so I suspect we will not spend all of this. But But no, we won't see it again after that.
How much was the original contract?
The original contract was for $330,000, of which we spent $232, and this one's for $200,000, which
Alrighty.
I suspect.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
If there's no other questions, to have a motion to consider contract. Motion for approval by Co-Chair Meredith. To have a second? Second by Senator Thomas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
I know I'd like to explain my vote. It seems like that a lot of times we overestimate the cost of these projects. I'd rather see them being a little more accurately reflecting the cost that we're going to be out and then ask for more.
So your vote's no?
Correct.
Senator Douglas.
I'll vote aye.
Senator Thomas. Aye. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you all so much for being with us.
Thank you all.
The next items on the pull list is with the Kentucky State Police and is number 183 on the routine PSC green list. Representatives are here. Please come forward and identify yourself. There we
Good
go.
morning. This is Jennifer Washaball. I'm the procurement specialist for KSP.
Okay. Could you please raise your right hand? Oh, wait. Go ahead. Go ahead and identify yourself. Sir, I think you're on mute. Could you? Because we can't hear you.
Still muted. If you'll give us just one moment, he can
Go right ahead. Technology's great. Yeah. It's a nice looking chair.
Representative
Okay,
Pollock,
my
we're
name's-
waiting. Maybe you could tell us some more stories about.
My name's Jeremy Ham. I'm a Lieutenant Colonel, Kentucky State Police, Office of Administrative Services.
Thank you, Colonel. If you both could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you all so much for being here. I believe Co-Chair Meredith has some questions.
I do very quickly. Again, I just pulled this one contract because it's kind of representative of all of them. We do this every year, so it's nothing unusual. What I want to know is we made some significant adjustments to the pay scale for state troopers, and I know we've improved our recruitment. Just wondering how it impacts this program. Do you anticipate the overall cost for retired trooper program to decline? Has it declined?
Thank you for your question. We still have, I feel, a pretty good amount of support for this program. We currently have 74 trooper and officer R's. We've recently taken on 2 trooper R's that are assigned to the recruitment branch. They are focusing their efforts in the western part of the Commonwealth to expand our efforts into trying to recruit more troopers.
But we have been successful. We have seen our vacancies decrease. What I'm trying to get is we have less reliance on this program than we used to because we have been successful by increasing the pay scale for state troopers. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I feel that would be a accurate statement.
Well, again, I don't have the numbers as to what the retired trooper program cost us in the past, but maybe you can provide it to us at some future point in time. Is I would like to know just how that's been impacted.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to provide that for you.
All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Senator Boswell.
Thank you. The number that's represented on all these categories here, is that inclusive of retirement? Is that a total cost? Are there other costs involved in this program?
So are you looking at the 88,000 for the
Correct.
contract?
Yes.
So that is all inclusive for each individual for that contract. It is everything for them. Now, their retirement contributions and everything, since they are previously retired, are already taken care of. So.
And how does this compare in a general sense to the average salary of a state trooper?
The salary for a
Let's say this.
for a trooper R
No,
is the equivalent.
for a state trooper.
It's the equivalent of a 5-year. It's the equivalent of a 5-year trooper.
Okay, yes. And the last question I have is, so are these trooper R's, are they all active every single week for 40 hours a week? Or is this just is it as needed, like if someone's out and they come in to replace them? Or are these people out in the field every single day all throughout the year?
Typically, yes.
The contract is based on a 40-hour week, yes.
Thank you. What's else?
Yeah. All right. If there's no other questions, do have a motion for approval. Motion by Representative Pollock, second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas.
Aye.
Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you all so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Apologize for the technical difficulties with the microphone. on my
No
camera.
problem at all.
Mr. Chair, we have a scheduling conflict that's arising here with 3 of our members, including myself, that we need to conclude this meeting. And my apologies to everyone that's here, but we're going to lose our quorum, obviously. In light of this, I think most of the questions we have regarding the remaining contract, exception 1, are kind of question and answer. And I wonder if the committee would entertain approval of all those contracts with the exception of contract 309.
I'll make a motion we approve those contracts with the exception of 309.
I have a motion made by Senator Boswell, second by Senator Thomas for approval. If all those in favor vote aye, all those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries.
Mr. Chair, the exception is contract 309, which I mentioned. And this is one that's got a little bit of history to it. I want additional information from the personnel, Office of Secretary of Personnel. And I don't think it can be provided during the time frame we have available to us at present. So I'd like to present a motion to defer action on this contract to our July meeting.
I'll make a motion to be deferred to the July meeting.
I have a motion made by Senator Boswell to defer 309 till the July meeting. I have a second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Thomas. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries.
I think the last order of business, Mr. Chair, is exemption requests. I make a motion to approve those exemptions.
I have a motion by Co-Chair Meredith to approve all the exemption requests, second by Representative Pollock. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith. Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries, and I will note, everybody please note, the July meeting will be July the 9th at 9 a.m. If there's no other business, we are adjourned.
I talked to Carol.
This is meeting where I'm at.
Yep, no problem.
It's for a